I'm Marti Gold Cummings, and this is Marti Talks. We're chatting with your favorite stars, queens, and politicians to get all the tea on all things political. Also, before we start, hey girl, it's good to see you. Thank you.
Hi, good to see you too. No, I get it. This is like the production, It's like we should keep this in, by the way.
We're editing, we're keeping this in.
Just for authenticity. Marti, I feel like you have ownership over amongst the queer community. I feel like that's your signature at this point.
Yeah,
your auditory signature.
Every queen does it, and I'm like, no, bitch, that's mine. But here we go. Welcome to Marti Talks.
Beautiful.
Welcome to Marti Talks. We are chatting with Bowen Yang today. Marti Talks is produced by Purse First Productions, Bob the Drag Queen, Mitch Farino. I, of course, am your host, Marti Gold Cummings. And since I was a heralded guest of La Casuarista, did I say that right?
Who cares? Yeah,
whatever. Sure. I'm so happy to have you on the show. Okay, we had to talk. I did a lot of cool things in my career that I've gotten a lot of people up in my DMs, but your podcast episode I think got me more messages than I've ever gotten.
No way.
Ever. Yeah.
I just feel like it. We have a nice swath of listeners who are just white cis straight women in their 20s and 30s who live in Dallas Fort Worth, who don't really have a conduit to queer culture. Maybe, I don't know. So it's nice. Maybe
come on, Fort Worth.
Why not?
The Dallas Fort Worth metro area.
Yeah.
I love doing your podcast. We're having Matt on the show with Dave Mazzoni.
Perfect.
Next week, I think. But yeah, okay. So I also just say in this quarantine life, have been looking for programs to invest my time in, get excited about, and I binged the fuck out of Nora from Queens.
Oh, good.
It's so good.
It goes down easy. It's fun, right? It's you don't have to you can put it on, you can fold laundry while it's on or something, It's you don't have to pay too much attention. It's not like a Lovecraft Country where you're I got to key in to know.
That's next on my list. That's next on my list.
It's good. Yeah.
I have to watch it. But you're so funny and so good in it. And the icon BD Wong. Who we talk about him on your show.
But can we talk about him more? He's the best.
I have a crush on him.
Oh yeah, same. And
did I tell you? Oh,
what?
Sorry.
No, you go.
I think I said this on your podcast, but how I was doing a video for my old YouTube show from 800 years ago, and he was like, "Oh, come do it at my apartment," and I used the bathroom just to look for his Tony, and I couldn't find it, and I was like, "Where's the Tony?" But I didn't want to tell him. That's why I was using the bathroom.
I'm sure if you just asked, he's a pretty open book. He probably would have just told you. Have I told you my story? I've said this a million times, in other places, but first time I ever met him, I was invited to his New Year's party. He throws these infamous New Year's parties, and this is before I knew him. But this is before I knew of him. He didn't know of me. But I had a friend of a friend who's also an actor who invited me to his New Year's party. And the second I walk in, it's this raucous party filled with the most stylish, chic people, and he is standing in his gorgeous kitchen in eyelashes, a red lip, and 7-inch knee-high hooker heels. And I'm you're my hero. And he was making Chinese porridge kanji, and it was just oh my God, this is what I want to be when I grow up. He's amazing.
That's very New York.
It's so New York. It's so I want a Tony in the 90s New York,
That's a very niche specific New York.
Yes.
New York is not dead.
No.
Okay, so let's chat a little bit about you're on SNL. Mage. We love. Congrats. So proud of you.
Oh my
Keep
God.
it up. But doing SNL in an election year is kind of I feel what so many SNL actors get excited about. It's because it's so popular doing impersonations of political figures, and it's also the right-wing media, which is garbage and trash and a dumpster fire of racism, loves to shit all over it. So what is you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So fuck Fox News. So what is it like doing SNL in this really kind of heated political environment?
I mean, I feel it is as a result of like the media landscape now, it is just so reactionary the way that things happen over there. I mean, which in a way it always has been, but and I'm not sort of qualifying it as good or bad, but it's like we have to like we have to sort of like come up with the cold open like on Thursday night or Friday morning or even Friday night, like it's some like in some cases where um the media side, it used to be that like media stories would get buried on Fridays, like things in Washington, like big stories would get buried on Fridays because there would be less media coverage because the weekend was like this dead zone and like no one was watching the news. But now it's like everyone's too keyed in at all times, and we're all just like going into panic attacks because of a New York Times notification. It's like, oh, like there's no escape from it. And so it feels like we're constantly like white knuckling it until Saturday, which is just, not a healthy place to be, but that's just kind of like the world that we live in. It's no one's fault except like, people who run media companies, I guess.
Yeah, I can't imagine like being under that pressure of putting out a product like that, but also like just the constant barrage of notifications, like you said, like oh my gosh, the New York Times just posted this. Oh my gosh, I just got a
Yeah.
notification for this. Oh my gosh, and it's like nonstop between Twitter and Instagram and everything.
Yeah.
Like we're getting news from so many different sources, 24/7. It's really overwhelming.
And like in terms of like transmuting like a dark, terrible story into like something hopefully like palatable and understandable and fun and frivolous. I mean, that's such a weird like dissociative thing now where it's like, oh, but like God, it's just so bleak that there's no way to make this funny. Like my first week at SNL was as a writer. I got hired as a writer. My first week of SNL was the Kavanaugh hearing.
Oh my God.
And it was just, I mean, just remember how everyone was so despondent and sad and like in the true depths of despair. And like, I remember coming in on Saturday and like we were like, the writers had just written this Kavanaugh cold open like the night before. Because I think the Dr. Ford hearing was like on a Wednesday or a Thursday, and then Kavanaugh was the night. I mean, it was just like so overwhelming. And I remember thinking like, oh, this can't be normal. Like this has to be like an exceptional event. But then, and it kind of was, but then like that kind of is like the mode of operation there all the time, which is like very commendable in terms of like the way, like the velocity with which people like make things and like the costumes are made and the sets are made. But it's also like, oh God, like we are sort of like in this chokehold of like horrible news all the time. And so I hope that there's like some reprieve from that soon. We'll see.
Yeah, I hope so.
I hope so. I hope
it's
so
a
too.
fucking lot, girl. This 2020 is like such a dumpster fire. It's been so like overwhelming. But I think like I read something the other day that I thought was really interesting about how everybody's like, oh my God, 2020 sucks. 2020 is horrible. And like, yes, obviously like there's a pandemic, so that adds like a unique kind of like flair of shitholism. But also like everything that's happening with the police and systemic racism and like, stuff that with Dr. Ford and misogyny and cis men getting away with rape, like these heavy things. This has been happening for decades and decades and decades in this country, and it's just now like being so exacerbated and highlighted.
But I think that's because there is this the sort of silver lining for me is that there's this collective consciousness that's like developed out of like generations and generations of just like internalizing all this horrible traumatic violent stuff that's happening around us. And like now like we get to all sort of, not all of us obviously, but it's like there seem to be these like this biomass of like a voice that's like kind of hopefully coming together. That's like my only sort of
people coming together. Yeah,
I
hope so. And I do think it is important to find moments of joy through this, and so like putting a comedic flair on life is important. So the work you do is very important.
Come on,
and
no
wonderful.
way.
Yes.
What I would give What? Go.
No, I was just saying, I'm running for office, and it's super stressful and hard, and like balancing, a marriage and being out of work for 6 months while running for office, and there's just everything that's happening in the country and the world. Turning on something like Nora from Queens was a great like comedic escape to like life. So it's so like there's value to that. There's such value to it. It's a great service.
I would have like. My mental health would be shot right now if I didn't have TV to watch and movies.
Do you know? I started watching. Just rolling with me.
I'm rolling.
I started watching because I was like, you know what? I just want to cry in bed all day. So I was like, let me put on something that just is like good and juicy, and I can just fully numb out. So I started rewatching Desperate Housewives
from season 1.
From season 1,
it's great.
It's so dumb.
It's so stupid and like pulpy and campy, but it's so fun.
It's so fucking dumb. That and Real Housewives of Potomac. That like gets me through life.
I have not watched the most recent episode of Potomac, but it's
me neither.
It's
I'm
a good
saving
season.
It for tonight. Yeah,
good.
It's so good. Are you a Housewives girl?
I was a latecomer to the Housewives as a franchise, and I've only kind of like cherry picked my seasons and my franchises. So my blind spots are Beverly Hills and Dallas, obviously, and like I don't know Jersey that well. I don't know.
Wait, do you watch Dallas?
That well. No, but like I remember watching like a couple episodes, but like my big blind spots are Beverly Hills and Atlanta. I know New York, I know Potomac, and I'm kind of excited for Salt Lake City. We'll see.
I'm excited. My husband grew up Mormon and went to Brigham Young, so I'm excited for
BYU.
Salt Lake.
Yeah, me too. Because I grew up in Colorado, and like we had a lot of the Mormons kind of crossed state lines into Colorado at some point. So I'm slightly familiar with that world too, and it's fascinating. Like these Mormon women are very like technologically like apt, and they are very good at like branding themselves. They're very good at like presenting themselves as very palatable and very cool. And like you are drawn to them and you like them. And it's sort of this like lulling ruse into like being like on board with whatever their life is. I feel like that's sort of the recruitment tool with Mormonism is like, look how fun and casual and airy we are. And then that's how they get you.
I call it the original Scientology.
Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah. It's so kooky.
It's so kooky. No shade to my in-laws. Love you. But it's nuts.
It's nuts.
It's nuts. But yeah, Housewives and Desperate Housewives are my saving grace through all of this.
Oh my God. I mean, God, season 1 is like Mrs. McCluskey and like...
Yeah. It's one of those shows where like it came out when I was in high school in 2004. So I was still in high school. So it's like a long time. That's almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So looking back, I'm like, I forget what happened. So I'm like fully invested. Like, oh my God, did Brie Vandekamp? Who killed who? Right. Terry Hatcher is like looking great with whatever Botox she got during it. Like I'm fully Alfre Woodard in season 2 is so good.
Alfre's phenomenal.
I'm so excited for season 6. I think it is when
Dana Delaney comes in, or Vanessa Williams.
Well, Vanessa Williams
is season 7.
So beautiful, but no, Laurie Metcalf. The episode with
Laurie Metcalf. Yes.
Do you remember that episode at the grogrocery store?
Season 3, where she shoots up the grocery store.
Is it season 3?
It's season 3. You're
I thought it was
season 3 or 4. I might be wrong. Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm very excited. Laurie Metcalf is life.
Laurie Metcalf is life. Look, but people like. I mean, maybe people don't forget this, but I have to remind myself constantly that Desperate Housewives pulled TV back into scripted territory because for a while there, like we were being inundated with reality shows.
The Simple Life.
Simple Life, well, like that opened the door, like that broke the dam, and like all network TV was all reality shows and competition shows all the time. Like American Idol was king. And so people like really like spelled doom in terms of like scripted TV being dead. And then Desperate Housewives was such a hit. Remember like what a hit it was? Like it was a cultural event.
It was huge. I would watch it every single week. I was so obsessed with it. And then it popped up on my Hulu and I was like, oh, I'm going to give this a revisit.
Yeah.
And now, but like when I watch shows, like I'm that kind of girl who I will be up till like 6 a.m. because I need to know what happens. And then I like can't. Then the next day I'm like, oh God, I got to go do life. And when I get invested, like I'm invested. I will watch that show till the fucking end. That's what with Potomac. Speaking of going back to Potomac,
Yeah.
I had never. Everybody said this is the best in the franchise. And I'm like, no, I'm a Beverly Hills, New York kind of gal.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you have to watch Potomac. So I watched 4 seasons of Potomac in 3 weeks. I watched all 4 seasons, like because I would stay up to watch it because I was like, I need to catch up to where everybody else is.
Wow. So you wanted the full, like, fledged experience.
I wanted the backstory. I wanted to know who to support. I'm fully on board with Team Giselle, Team Robin, the Green Eyed Bandits. Fully on board with Monique. We love Monique. Karen is a nutter butter. Ashley's crazy. Her husband
You're anti-Candace?
Candace? How is her mom a therapist?
Oh, yeah, that mom is trouble.
How? Who is she giving advice to? Who is she like? No.
I mean, Candace is tough. Ashley is tough. That damn husband of hers is just such a bad dude.
Yeah, not cool. Not cool. Well, I love Monique. I love Monique's husband, Chris.
So fun. He seems like the sweetest of the bunch. And then Wendy's husband seems fun too, but we don't know that much about him.
We don't know much about Wendy yet.
Wendy came in hot.
She came in hot. I'm on the fence with Wendy.
I'm into her. I respect like the sort of like life she's cultivated, and it's like very impressive. But I mean, she is like coming in very aggro, which I think you have to be if you're coming in, if you're a newcomer to a franchise that's established and like has storylines like very tightly wound together. You gotta be like, you know, a Wendy or a Dorinda or like, you know, an Erica Jane. I guess I don't know Beverly Hills that well. I know, poor thing. She was my favorite coming in.
Dorinda.
But what like a Shakespearean end to her? Like she came in like so casual and like, oh yeah, it doesn't really like I don't really give a shit about this. And then now she's just like the alcohol monster.
She's had a bad year.
I know.
She's had a bad year. And you know, I can't stand Ramona.
Oh, I've gone on record and said this before. I hope Ramona Singer dies alone.
She's called me a he, she before.
What?
Yeah, years ago.
Fuck you, Ramona Singer. No.
Wait, I thought we talked about this on your podcast.
Maybe. Wait, no, I would have remembered this. Wait, what?
Okay, many years ago, I was doing this like CBS radio show or whatever. And it was like at the very beginning of my drag career. I don't even know how I got put on this show. And it was like maybe season 1 or 2 of Housewives. And I wasn't like a housewifer at the time, but now like I'm diehard. But she came in, it's a radio program on the radio. And she comes in with hair and makeup. She like brings, you know, her jewelry. She was like selling jewelry, I guess at the time. Her jewelry line to show off and blah, blah, blah. And she's going on and on. And so on air, she's like, so like, what are you? Like a he, she? And I was like, wow. And I was like, you know, 20 or 21 at the time. I didn't know how to handle it. So it was very intense. But I was just thinking like, this bitch, you brought hair and makeup to a radio show and you're trying to read me? Come on.
No, sorry. You might have just frozen out for a second. Sorry, but keep going. Did
you hear me?
Wait. It cut off right when you said Ramona brought in a bunch of jewelry.
Oh, well, okay. For editing, we're going to tell this story again.
Yes. Thank you.
No, I was just saying we were doing this radio program. I was very new to drag. She was very new to Housewives, whatever. We're on the radio and she brought in a hair and makeup team and jewelry to display for the radio. And on air, she's like, so what are you? Like a he, she? I didn't know how to, I was like, this bitch. She's not a nice person. I'm not here for, and listen, I'm all about like learning from your mistakes, listening, showing up, growing, evolving,
restorative.
Whatever.
Yeah, everything.
She has not shown that at all, and I cannot wait for the reunion when Leah tears into her for being in Florida, maskless. She's a big Trump supporter. Her husband, her ex-husband Mario, is a big Trump supporter.
Mm-hmm. All they went to in the beginning of this current season. They went to some house party in the Hamptons that was like
the guy it was the guy who threw that big party for Trump in the Hamptons.
Exactly, and then like Ramona had no qualms about it. Yeah, who fucking cares? But like it was I mean it's like Ramona, Luann, Sonia, even unfortunately like they're all even and Tinsley didn't vote. I believe the only like politically engaged people were Bethany and Carol. And then Leah.
Bethany and Carol.
I know. I miss Carol. I mean, the Bethany Carol feud kind of left a bad taste in my mouth.
Do you like Heather? I like Heather.
Heather was fun and dumb. Yeah, she was great.
Yeah, I miss her.
Holla.
That was a mess.
Such a mess. But no, I mean, I I feel like I support your Housewives journey for sure, both desperate and real.
But yeah, and the real are desperate. So
yes,
that's the gag. I will say I love Andy. Andy donated to my campaign,
oh
which I was
great,
super grateful for. He did. I was on the show with Judith Light as a bartender to promote my campaign,
that's
and
right,
he donated like $1,000 after, and I was super
amazing.
grateful. Yeah, so I was like, thanks, babe.
Ah, wow.
We love
I guess
Mr.
I gotta
Cohen.
one up Andy and donate $2,000 to you. I'll do
That's
it.
illegal. You're only legally allowed to give 1,000.
I know. But wait, is it for campaign financing for donations? Can you break up 1,000 and do like little chunks or no?
You can do, yeah, but you can't exceed $1,000. But you can break it up, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Good
Over
to
time.
know.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah. Tell all the
The SNL
cast and crew.
people.
Yeah.
Yes, I will.
Tell them to do it.
I'll tell BD to
dream.
do it. BD will donate for sure.
Yeah, he'll do it.
Yeah.
Well, Audra McDonald donated it as well, which we love. Queen Audra.
Queen.
Yeah, we love. My dream is I would love for SNL to parody me.
Yes. Oh my God.
Maybe when I'm like in a higher office. If that
I
ever
feel
happens.
at that point there will be like a I'm not even joking. Like there will be like a non-binary cast member, and like they will like portray you, and like that's
I
the
would
only
love
like
that.
just way for it to happen. I think.
I would love that. Now is this okay? Is Kate McKinnon? She's out, right?
She's out. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, do we have to edit that?
No.
She's out. Okay. She's out and on the show, and but were you the first? Tell me if I'm wrong. Were you the first out gay man on the show?
No, not at all. Terry Sweeney back in the 80s, the first out gay man on television, period. Just on like network TV at all. Like not even like on SNL. I mean, he made history at SNL, obviously, but he was like the first openly gay male actor on television, like reading scripted material. So he kind of like broke every seal and ground on all these different things. And he was a writer there for a little bit as well before he got put on the cast. I think he stayed after to write as well, and then like now he's just living his dream upstate. I think with his husband. I mean, he seems to be doing great.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I for some reason thought you were the.
No. There was Terry, and then there was this very funny LA-based comedian by the name of John Milheiser, who was on the cast in 2013, I want to say, 14. And then, I mean, who knows? Maybe some closeted folks before me.
Yeah. I can't wait for the day that there's like trans and non-binary actors on the show.
I think it might happen sooner than we all think. I'm hopeful.
I think it will happen.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like, as an out like person in the like spotlight or whatever, do you feel like pressure in that realm?
I vastly back and forth between being like, oh, like I have this responsibility to uphold, and I think we do, like as queer people, like who are visible, quote unquote. But I also feel like, and I'm sure you agree, Marti, where it's like, oh, like no one queer person or otherized person has the responsibility, should bear the responsibility to like represent everybody else, because you can't just like turn that one experience into monolith for all these different people. There is always a plurality of experience when it comes to any kind of person. And so I'm just like, oh wait, yeah, like I'm like, oh, am I posting too many thoughty photos where like the Asian like the Asian family like in the Midwest whose child like watches the show like might think, oh, that's a little untoward or unbecoming. I'm just like, oh, but I can only like just have fun and do me. So I
post those thoughty pictures.
What's that?
Go ahead and post those pictures.
Yeah, thanks,
you look
Marti.
Great. You look great.
My God. I look fine, but I'm just like putting on like silly clothes, and I'm just like, whatever. Like I have no like shame around this anymore, so I just do it.
There should be no shame around it. And also, fuck, I am super shamed because I forgot to take a commercial break 15 minutes in. So here's a word from our sponsors.
Boom. You're doing it perfect.
Okay, we're back. Oh, I can't believe I forgot. But thank you, sponsors. I could never forget you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sponsors.
I also love your what's her name picture behind you? I'm like blanking on.
Oh, Jerry Blank.
Jerry Blank, yeah. Oh my god.
You've got your Patti LuPone behind you. We both.
I have a Patti LuPone. Yeah, for the listeners, I have a Patti LuPone picture, and you have a Jerry Blank picture.
Yes.
Which I love. Have you ever seen the video? Have you ever seen the video of Amy Sedaris giving a tour of her apartment?
Yes. Oh, it's so fun.
It's so fun, and she has a rabbit that like eats her furniture. It's everything.
She gives it like cardboard to chew on.
I'm obsessed with her.
She has so much rabbit content. She came out with that crafts book, Simple Times. Do you remember that? Like 2011.
And she has another show out with Cola Scola right now.
Oh yeah, At Home with Amy Sedaris. Yeah. I just like what a fun like kind of like persona, like because her first book was about entertaining while like under the influence or whatever. That's what the title was, and then the second one was Crafts for Poor People. So it was just like what a fun, like it's a lifestyle. It's like making fun of like a lifestyle brand, and just like kind of like presentationally like having fun with that like thing, because it's like supposed to be this like cooking show or this like, you know, decorating show, and then you have like people like Cole Skull in a wig come in and, you know, wreak havoc. So
Cole is a comedic genius. For people who don't know who Cole Skull is, please get into it. Did you ever watch Jeffrey and Cole Casserole on Logo?
Yes.
Yeah. I was on 3
early
episodes.
days.
Blessings. Yeah.
You were?
3 episodes, bitch. Yeah.
Oh my god.
But they would film it with like some Kmart handheld camera back in the day. It was before iPhones. It was before. It was like really, really homemade, but on TV. It was brilliant.
It was like one of our earliest examples of like I guess I don't know if it predated Big Gay Sketch Show, which was also on Logo, or after, or if it came
was before. After. Yeah, I think it was before.
It's before, right? Because Kate McKinnon was on Big Gay Sketch Show. But Jeffrey and Cole Casserole, like that was like they were doing these YouTube videos when YouTube was a new thing, and then like just kind of like scaled up their thing, and it's like, oh, they've been like laying the groundwork like this whole time, and like they're both brilliant. So brilliant. Brilliant people. We love, but go ahead.
I filmed that around the time that Ramona called me a he, she.
Which is probably good, because it's like you're like, I don't care what the fuck you think. I'm shooting a damn TV show.
I'm on Logo, bitch.
Ugh, God. I feel like we're very, very, very quick on like getting like getting media sort of like keyed into like being seen, which is like I think like is what makes you so like venerated in like the community, which is like, oh, like we have all seen Marti in different capacities over the years, and it's like, I mean, can we just say that like I've said this for the millionth time, but you and I announced Pride together a couple years ago.
My eyebrows look so bad on that day.
You look gorgeous.
No, my girl, I don't know. I was going through this phase where I had like these giant. I don't know what I was. It was very fun being with you, but my eyebrows looked like shit. Very fun being with
you. You looked phenomenal that day. But I just have to say,
that
like,
was fun. It was you, me, and Mike Kelton.
It was you, me, and Mike Kelton, and this was like, you know, before like we all sort of like woke up to the fact that like, you know, Pride hires cops and whatever. But you just were able to like go out there and like every single, and at least there were at least 2 people in every single group and like every parade sort of like coalition that would come up to you and be like, "Oh my God, Marti!" Like, and it was just this thing like that I got to see firsthand and up close, where I was just like, "Oh, like Marti means so much to so many different people." And it's just like so fantastic. It's so cool, and like you have like earned that, and you deserve that like respect from everybody.
You're very sweet. Thank you.
Anyway,
that's very sweet.
Is it okay that I brought up cops at Pride?
No, well, I will not do.
I won't do it anymore either.
I won't do Pride anymore because of that. I'll do the Queer March, which I so strongly support.
I love the Queer Liberation March. Yes.
Yeah, but I think it's like one of those things where, as a drag artist who how do I word this? So we should not have cops at Pride.
No.
Like we should not have, especially like looking at what happened this year with the police. I was right there when they were pepper spraying.
You were brutalized. You were brutalized specifically.
And so it's like, you know, I had been arrested in June and then pepper sprayed at Pride this year. So we don't need cops at Pride. We don't need Pride to be a corporate event. So I think what should happen is, you know, these floats, you know, say, I don't know, TD Bank. Let's just use that for an example. Say TD Bank buys a float. It costs like tens of thousands of dollars for them to get this float, to just to get it in the parade. Then they're spending thousands of dollars on building the float. Then thousands of dollars on merchandise for their people to hand out and wear. So what they should do is instead team up with the Queer Liberation March and say, the money we would have spent on Pride, we will contribute to the Queer Liberation March to then distribute to organizations that support the most marginalized within the queer community, which are trans people, Black trans people, queer youth experiencing homelessness, our seniors who don't have access to care. There's so many groups that could benefit from this. And instead of throwing their logo on stuff, throw their weight behind actually supporting Pride. And then still, and as a queer artist who I get hired by corporations for Pride, one of my things is I make it a point to say, okay, are you just doing this in June, or are you actively throughout the year benefiting queer organizations? And because, artists have to make money. So corporations should still, drag artists, DJs, comedians, dancers should still do corporate gigs during Pride, but make sure that those corporations are not just doing it during Pride, but actually contributing 100%. Throughout the year. But yeah, no cops at Pride, no corporate floats at Pride. No more of that bullshit. No more.
Yeah, I mean, no more. Thank you for saying all that. That's a great idea because, I think this year sort of laid bare the whole notion of oh, but wait, why are drag artists and queer performers only because the sort of common sentiment or thing that kept coming up was all these different people in the arts, these different arts workers being it's a real bummer this year in June that we don't have any, that our bookings are non-existent because it's Pride Month and we're queer performers, but it's oh, but that sort of speaks to the shitty, flawed model that is, it's all concentrated in this one month where it should be evenly distributed throughout the year.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And I'm super grateful. I have a relationship with a couple different companies that are very good about hiring year round. Yeah. And then, if I recommend somebody, my drag daughter Peaches, who's a fierce Black drag queen, being hey, I'm not available, hire Peaches, or hire, and refer. And they're okay, we will do that, because it's so important to just I don't know, spread it around and
collectivism over individualism.
Yeah. So fuck the police. And so basically, fuck the police.
And that's it.
I really oh my gosh, let me tell you, I'm all about defunding. That is my whole life journey now. Defund. You gotta defund. I'm all about it. So you're from California, or not from Colorado, rather. You're from Colorado. You grew up there?
I grew up there. I moved there when I was 8 years old from Montreal. So I was in Canada
Montreal?
for a bit. Yeah.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? My family moved to Ontario when I was 6 months old, and then we moved to Quebec, and we moved to the suburbs around Montreal when I was 2. So I spent 6 years. I spent the first 8 years of my life in Canada, and then.
Do you speak the French?
I spoke French better than I spoke English, and then when I moved to Colorado, within 6 months, my English really improved, but I completely forgot all my French. It was just that sort of fast of a turnover, which bums me out because now I can understand bits and pieces of French when I hear it now. But it's tough. French is a pretty cool language.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
I know.
My husband and I had our honeymoon in Paris, and on day 3, I was wait, are you speaking French? The whole fucking time he's speaking French, and I had no idea. I was oh my god,
he speaks
everything
it?
Is so, yeah, I had no idea. And I married this man, The Secret. I was oh my gosh, and he was just ordering for. I was oblivious to it, and then on day 3, I was wait a minute.
It took you to day 3?
I was looking at stuff. I was oh, look at that bell tower.
I was looking at stuff, and you were just so used to being taken care of by him.
He's a good hubby. He's a good hubby.
That's so funny.
Yeah, then I was oh shit. I love that you're from Canada. I had no idea.
Yeah, so I'm dual. So I was just a Canadian citizen with my green card until I was 17. And I helped my parents study for their naturalization test. And then I sort of, because I was under 18, like as soon as they got citizenship, I got it too.
Oh, that's great.
But
that test is super hard. Like I don't know
at the
anybody who
time,
could pass that test.
it was easy, but now it's much more esoteric. And like I remember even a couple of years ago, before Trump got elected, I remember being in Colorado. This was like after college. I was in Colorado hanging out with them, and then they had friends over. This really nice family over, Chinese family. Had a little bit of money to throw around, and they were looking into whatever their best sort of like way in immigration wise was. And so I drove them to this immigration lawyer downtown in Denver who specialized in this kind of thing. And lawyer was also Chinese. And then I sat in with the family while they met with the lawyer, and it was just so dark and chilling because the lawyer just sat down with them and immediately was like, so it's really bad and hard right now, and there's basically no hope for you guys except if you like did like an investment immigration thing where if it's an investment visa where you have to like pay like $500,000 up front. And I was just like, and then I could see like the hope like leave their bodies and their eyes, like this family. And I was just like, which is like, again, like that's such like a best case scenario for people wanting to immigrate to this country. But like, it would like crush my soul if I were to like, really, really, really like take on like all of like the collective pain and sorrow of people trying to like come into this country for a better life or seek asylum or whatever. And it's just like, oh, our country's made it so stupidly difficult and arcane to become naturalized here. And then for what? Because like, is it even that great here? I don't know.
I mean,
this pandemic is just like, I mean, I'm not saying anything that nobody else has said, but it's just like, why are we like what's like, I don't know. I mean, whatever. I love New York. I love being here. I'm very grateful for everything that for my life here. And like, I don't know that I would necessarily trade it for something else leading up to this, but I'm just like, God, like there's just so much that is fundamentally broken about things here, like systemically and locally and like socially, like on an interpersonal level, so much is like fucked up. So I'm just like, damn, I really wonder like what's the value proposition of America right now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our country is
I'm bringing it down. I'm so sorry, Marty.
No,
I'm like,
no. This is what we talk like. This. Hold on. We're gonna take we're okay. We're gonna take a quick break for our sponsors, and we'll be right back to this. Here we go. Boom, and we are back talking about the downfall of America. But you're right. Like just to pick up, where we just were. Our country is so deeply flawed, and I think it's important to remember, like, so many people I feel are of the mindset right now, like, oh my gosh, all this stuff is like happening now, and it's like, no, our country is built on stolen land, and it was built by people who were stolen from their land, who were not able to profit off of it. But our country is built on genocide and systemic racism and oppression. So the system is doing everything it was designed to do. So now we have to rebuild the system to be one that's equal and equitable for everyone. And that's why, people say, oh, Trump is terrible. I talked about this on a podcast, I recorded earlier today, but people are like, oh, Trump is so bad. And it's like, yeah, he is the worst of the worst of the worst, but there's an entire system that has allowed him to get into office and to do the stuff that he's doing. So it's more than just Trump. It's like and it's more than even just the Republican Party. It's an entire system that has allowed this shit to happen. So, yeah, it fucking sucks and it's scary and horrible, but I believe in the power of goodness, and I believe that goodness will win in the end. And it's just going to take a lot of fighting and a lot of literal blood, sweat, and tears to get there. But I do believe protests work, and
they do.
Yeah, we gotta fuck it up.
I know. I mean, yeah. I mean, even with what you're saying about the Trump of it all, it's like it also just I've like reframed my whole way of thinking around collectivism versus individualism, where it's like it shouldn't be the individual's responsibility, even on our side of things, where it's like on some fundamental level, like, you know, you have to like educate yourself and you have to catch up to a baseline of understanding with like what's going on in this country socially, but also at the same time, like um, any narrative. Kimberly Crenshaw says this. She's this professor. She's this like legal scholar who coined the term intersectionality, and she is just like anytime someone finds success, they have to reject the notion of individual resilience or exceptionalism because that just buys into like bootstrap theory bullshit. Because you have to be able to be like, oh no, I'm successful because these structures of success helped me get to where I am, and that applies in the inverse too, where it's like, oh no, Trump is not an individual like sort of anomaly in the system. Like Trump was kind of like conveyor belted into where he is now because of all these things that are in place. So yeah, I mean that's kind of like reframed my whole way of thinking. It's like collective action versus individual responsibility, and yeah, we just have to be collectively active together to like make sure non-neoliberal bullshit wins and prevails.
I love that.
Or a non-neoliberal good shit prevails.
Yeah. I know. I got it. Yeah, I love that so much. I love that.
Ah!
Oh God, I love it. Before we end, I want to talk a little bit about your podcast with Matt Rogers, who I love so much. How did you guys start that? How did you guys get going on that?
We were doing sketch comedy, like on a very amateur level. We had a show at, you know, a theater in the city. And we were just pounding the pavement, trying to like book TV jobs and stuff and trying to like make a name for ourselves by like performing and like, you know, writing and putting our stuff on stage, which was great and so gratifying and wonderful. And we met so many good people along the way. And then one day I had this network approach me and they were like, do you have an idea for a podcast? We're starting this like sort of like, you know, alt comedy focused like podcast network. It's sort of like very scrappy and it'll feel really fun and like homey and local. And I was just like, okay, yeah, so it's low stakes. I have all these ideas. They were very high concept, but then I was like, actually, I just want to bring in my friend Matt. And they were like, yeah, do it. So my natural instinct was just to bring in Matt anyway, because I don't like doing things alone. Even when it comes to writing or even when it comes to performing, I'm just like, oh, I need like a partner there. Like that's kind of like the improviser.
I love collaborations. Yeah, that's why I love working with Bob and Mitch on this. Like it's so nice to just like work with your friends and put it together. Yeah.
I mean, like I respect the hell out of stand-up comedians or like any artist, performance or art worker who is just like by themselves and it's fully like a self-produced thing. And I just like don't have the capacity for that, I think, even with my like, you know, solutions oriented or detail oriented sort of way of thinking. But I brought Matt in and then we just like were batting around other ideas. And there were so many different things where we were like, we could do like America's Next Top Podcast host, where we host like a reality podcast where we like audition different podcast hosts. But then we were like, no, I mean, like we just had all these, we had like a choose your own adventure podcast that we were thinking about. But then we were like, no, let's just stick to something low concept, very silly, won't take a lot of work. Something that we'll want to do week after week after week, something that we don't have to prep for really and like write a bunch of scripts for or whatever, something sustainable. Basically, we were like, how do we build something that's like going to be very low touch, lo-fi, and we can just sort of pump out whenever we want.
Well, it's one of the greatest podcasts ever.
No, come on.
Yeah, no, I mean it. Not just because I'm on it, but
yes.
No, it's so good. Like it's so funny and so good. Like you guys are
thanks.
You're very good together. It's very
thanks. Funny. No, he's like, one of those like whenever you find like a creative soulmate, it's like, it's like falling in love. And so I feel like Matt and I feel that way about each other very much. So, I'm just sort of taken aback by the longevity aspect of it. Like I have never committed to something for longer than like 3 months in all aspects of my life.
Well, babe, you're in it. You're in it now.
No, I know. but I feel like what's so important and what was so critical about that like initial conception stage was that we were like, let's just do something that's like low effort, which sounds like a cop out, which sounds like, you should put effort into what you want to do. But as long as you are,
when you're busy, you want to like with this podcast, like I like that I can record it whenever I want.
Yes.
It's like super chill and just like I just want to like shoot the shit and like talk about politics and laugh a little bit. You know, like
I love that.
That's it.
But
It's great.
Yeah. So I mean that's all it has to be. It just has to be something that like comes naturally. And so we just kept wanting to do it despite like not having any audience for the first like a year and a half. We sort of built that very slowly, and now it's sort of organically like, you know, we have this like listenership who we really like and connect with, and have seen us like in dark times and good times, and they
good
sort of like
times and bum times.
Oh my god, wait, I can't wait for like the day when we're all like in a space together again, and for someone to play at a gay bar Judy Garland and Barbra Streisand singing Happy Days are here again.
And
I'm
two
just
drag
like,
queens on stage join it. Oh my god.
You know,
I miss queer spaces.
I feel like we've crested the hill, and now we're downhill, and we're gonna hopefully get there really soon.
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there with Judy and Barbara. And
yes,
all the other gals will be wonderful. Oh my gosh. Yes. Well, I love you so much.
I love you, Marti.
Thank you so much for joining this. You're amazing.
You're the best.
I love you. Oh my gosh, I have to eat. I'm like dying.
Go eat.
I have to go eat. I have to go to the grocery store. That's what I have to do. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Marti Talks with our special guest, Bowen Yang. Today's episode was brought to you by Purse First Productions, by the drag queen, Mitch Farino. Have a beautiful, blessed day. Fill out the census, register to vote, go vote, absentee, drop it at the poll station, do whatever you have to do. But please, for the love of fucking God, vote, and not for a Republican, because they are what? Bad people.
Woo!
Yeah.
Yay!